Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Get Wedding Ready with me, Wura Manola. I hope you guys are doing well. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about cost. Yes, I'm going to talk about hidden costs. Those costs that creep up and increase your budget, we're going to tackle them today. This video is going to be 20 hidden wedding cost. Yes, so for anyone who's getting married, this video is for you. Anyone who's getting married in the future, or if you're already planning your wedding, this video is for you. So before we go into this video, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and definitely comment below any of the hidden costs that I have not mentioned. So let's get straight into it, guys. So the first hidden cost I want to talk about is consultations and trials. When you're going through your wedding planning process, especially for makeup and hair, if you do a trial, you are going to pay extra for that. So it's not going to be part of a package, except the vendor has put it as part of their packages, but expect to pay for trials, and that's something that you might not know until you approach the vendor. So obviously make sure you're aware of that. Second of all is consultations. Yes, some wedding planners and some wedding vendors do charge consultation. So that's something you need to be aware of, that when you approach your vendor and you're consulting with them. So some vendors might be free and some might not be free. So that's something for you to bear in mind. The second one, and this is my nemesis, transport and accommodation. Depending on where you're based, wherever you're based, you have to factor in transport and accommodation for not only your vendors but even yourselves, especially if you're going for a destination wedding. So transport accommodation, especially if you're having an intercity wedding. So for example, if you're getting married in another city, all your vendors coming in, you'd have to pay for their transport, except they've stated that this is part of their packages. You have to pay for the accommodation as well, especially for like your hairstylist or your makeup artist that has to start really early in the morning and has to stay the day before. So transport accommodation is something that really affects budget and people are not aware of, because when a vendor quotes you, go the extra mile and ask them how much is transport and how much is everything included, which I'll talk to as well, some other costs that can be included. So you can ask these questions and get the full picture when you approach your vendors. And also, if you're having a destination wedding, transport and accommodation is something that you should definitely factor in, because you will definitely be paying for all the transport accommodation for your vendors and yourself. Setup and tear down. So these are hidden costs, because when you approach your production company, so if someone is providing your dance floor or your stage, your decor, if they're coming to set up, anyone who's setting anything up for your wedding is going to charge you a setup fee and a tear down fee. And when they give you quotes together, they will put this in it and they will put transportation and everything. When you're having a discussion with them, they might be like, oh yeah, it costs, you know, £1,000 for a dance floor. You're not adding the setup and tear down for that. Also the transport cost. So make sure you ask the questions for anyone who's setting up anything for your wedding. So probably mostly your decor, your production, etc. Make sure that you're aware of the setup and tear down costs. The next one is labor costs. So if any of your vendors has to bring an assistant or has to bring anyone extra, you might be paying for that. Or if your decor needs to bring people to set up, or for example, waiters or ushers. I mean, there's so many people that are involved in bringing a wedding together, and you might be paying for some labor. So make sure you're aware of that. Obviously, the bigger your wedding is, the more staff you're going to be paying for. So that's another cost that I wanted to, you know, bear in mind. The next hidden cost that people are not really aware of, number 5, is overtime. If a supplier has quoted you, for example, a photographer says it's 10 hours. If you need him for more than 10 hours, that's a discussion you should have ASAP. The minute you know that your wedding is finishing at midnight or is finishing later than expected, you should let your supplier know. Don't leave it till the day, because they will charge you an overtime. Whereas if you can negotiate something and talk about something that works as a package, it will save you more money. So if you do know that you need your supplier for more than, especially with coordinators, wedding coordinators, for example, after a particular time will charge you per hour, especially past midnight, it becomes more expensive. So make sure with all your vendors that you've, you know, spoken to, if you need them for over the time that you need them for, have a conversation and get that in at the beginning if you can, because you will be paying for overtime. And speaking of overtime, number 6 hidden cost is overtime for venues. So if you stay past a particular time, a venue will charge you, and it's usually not cheap. So make sure you do all your best to leave that venue before the time that you've contracted, except you have a lot of money and you don't mind. But just to let you know that that's a hidden cost. Some of them will give you a grace of like 30 minutes, but if you pass like an hour overtime, they will charge you. Another one is like cleaning up. That's a hidden cost as well, because when you book your venue, they don't tell you that, oh, by the way, cleaning up up is this amount because they don't know you might need that service. So that's another question you can ask your venue when you approach your venue, like, oh, how much it is to clean up, can we use your cleaners, can we bring our cleaners, etc. So cleaning cost is so important because the venues charge you if you don't return the venue back to the states that you got it. So it's so important for you to know about cleaning costs. And removal of bins is another one. I remember we had a wedding where at 2 a.m. me and my assistant were actually taking away all the rubbish and putting it in the bin, and our client still got charged because the bin didn't close. Very ridiculous. So just make sure that you have access to the amount of bins you need, the bin does close, and you follow all the regulations, because some of this, they can be very petty with their rules and their regulations. So just make sure that you adhere to them. Another important one is tax. In the UK, tax is usually included. Sometimes it's not when it comes to obviously service providers, so make sure you're aware of tax. So if someone quotes you something, always ask, is it including tax or not? Because tax is 20%, so the more expensive the service you're getting, the more expensive it's going to be. For example, £5,000 with 20% tax is 6,000. That's another grand that you might not have budgeted for. So when you approach your venues and your vendors, make sure you ask them, is this including tax? Because what will happen is a lot of the time they quote you excluding tax. I feel like everyone should be actually putting down excluding tax in bracket including tax. But yes, it's so important for you to be aware of tax. And my brothers and sisters in the United States, in the Caribbean, the tax is wild. The tax is wild, and that's the next one I'm going to come to, is service charge. So be aware of service charge. Usually service charge is bigger in the US and the Caribbean, and like UAE, Dubai, and maybe some parts of Europe, but not so big in the UK, depending on the venue, you know, and who you're using. So obviously service charge is big, but it just depends on who you're using. But service charge as a staple in the US, you have the tax line and you have the service charge line, and it just gets so expensive. And service charge and tax in Florida, for example, is so expensive compared to somewhere like Denver. So it's so important for you to be aware of the tax and service charge where you're getting married. That's definitely a hidden cost, and that's something that can make your budget obviously increase when you don't intend on it increasing. The next thing I want to talk about is customs charge. This is something you need to be aware of because you might see some lovely items overseas. You might want to get your dress from America or China. You might want to get your wig from somewhere else. Be aware of the customs charge, because the more expensive the things you're getting, the more expensive the customs charge is going to be. So if you're buying things in the thousands, your custom charge is going to be in the hundreds. So custom charge is something that you should be aware of. If you can source all you need locally, obviously I understand you might want to get your wedding dress from Dubai, from Mexico, for example, you know. I understand that you might want to get things abroad, but make sure you factor in service charge. And if you can, get someone to bring in, if it's in a country where you know someone, get them to bring it with them. Maybe don't do that just in case the luggage gets lost, but you know what I mean. Always be cautious. I'm a wedding planner, so I'm always like, don't do that. But yeah, as long as it's not your wedding dress, you get someone to bring it if they're in a country where it's getting ready. But yes, be aware of customs charge. The next one I'm going to talk about, the next hidden cost, is a different kind of charge that it's put in different countries. For example, Dubai was doing this thing where they were charging 5% VAT for everything, and this wasn't a customs charge, it was just a different charge. I can't remember what it's called, but they're charging 5% VAT on everything that came in to the country, and this is part of international as well, but it's not customs. And I remember I got a service from Dominican Republic and I had to pay, and the supplier was like, yeah, you have to pay 5%. It's a standard rule here, everything is plus 5%. So yeah, that's something for you to be aware of. Depending on where you're based and where you're getting married and where you're getting your goods and services from, you might have to pay some sort of percentage for something. So that's definitely something that you should be aware of. So number 11 hidden cost is extra items. You might think that, oh, you're just going to get a dance floor, but apart from that dance floor, you might want to have your name or your initials on that dance floor. That's an extra cost. You might see lovely decor, you might want to get more flowers. That's an extra cost. You might want to get, you know, like Chiavari chairs, or like, you know, nice linen or something that might not be provided by your venue. There's always a miscellaneous on all the budgets that we do. It's always like a buffer. We always put like 10%, depending on how big the wedding is. Make sure you have a buffer in your budget for all these extra items. Your buffer is not for transportation or, you know, maybe tax or everything. That should be in your budget, but your buffer is for any unseen things that might pop up. The next one I have is postage. For those of you who are posting your wedding invitation, postage can easily ramp up. So make sure you're aware of postage fees. If you're posting something abroad or you're getting something DHL to you, apart from the custom charge, that delivery, make sure you factor that in, because obviously, for example, if you're posting your wedding dress from somewhere overseas, that postage could be in the hundreds of pounds. So be aware of postage. That's a hidden cost cost that can easily rack up. The next one we have is wedding dress shopping. This is a very small hidden cost, but some boutiques charge you if you come on a Saturday, and some charge you regardless. So that's something you'll be aware of, because obviously if it's about 50 or 100 pounds to try on a dress in a boutique, the more boutiques you go for, you have to multiply that. So if you go for 5, that could be easily 250 to 500 pounds. So it's so important for you to know if the boutique charges and how much they charge. This is a hidden cost that you might not be aware of when you start wedding planning. The next one is dress alterations. You probably think, I'm gonna get my dress made, I'm gonna get it looking fabulous, everything's gonna be okay. More often than not, obviously if you get your dress made by a boutique, like made by the designer, all the alterations and everything is obviously factored into the price. But for those of you who are buying your dress like off the rack somewhere and you still want to alter it, that's something that you have to put into consideration, and that can get a little bit pricey, especially the more complicated the dress is. Some people have actually said that altering a dress has come to the same price as getting a brand new dress. So some people have actually not bothered and gotten a brand new dress. So yeah, that's something that definitely be aware of. The next one I want to talk about hidden cost is corkage fee. So when you're getting married, when you book your venue is going to say, if they allow you to bring in your own drinks, they're going to charge you a corkage fee. Some venues, not all venues, most venues actually will charge you a corkage fee. What's the corkage fee? Because you're not using the drinks at the venue, because that's obviously a way they can make money, they will charge you per drink that you bring in. If it's alcohol, it's going to be more expensive. If it's soft drinks, some will just say, yeah, bring it in, or they might just charge you a small fee, but it's more expensive when you do alcohol. When we've actually added up the corkage fee, it just makes sense to get the alcohol from the venue. So that's something that you should be aware of, the corkage fee, if you're planning to get alcohol and bring it into the venue. Sometimes it just makes sense to just get it from the venue when you look at the corkage fee. I've talked about this one, but the next one is cleaning fees for the venue. It's something that you need to factor in. As I said earlier on, if you get your venue, it's not going to be a contract that cleaning is XYZ. Cleaning is going to be a conversation you're going to talk about towards the end when you're having your final meeting. It's like, okay, how are we going to get the venue back to the state that we lent it out to you, that we rented it out to you? So it's so important for you to factor in cleaning costs. Professional cleaning can be a bit pricey. You don't obviously want to clean or make your bridesmaids clean. Please, I've seen that before, not at my weddings, but I've seen people do that. Please don't do that to your bridesmaids. Get professionals to clean the space, or if your wedding coordinator does provide that service, I don't know anyone who does, it might be worth speaking to her saying, hey, can you guys help me clean up? Or do you know anyone that can clean up, or can you get me a cleaner? So make sure you factor that in, because if the venue has to clean or has to do a top up, they're going to charge you, and that's a cost that obviously you might not have factored in. Almost coming to the end, guys. So the next one I'm going to talk about is delivery costs. I know I've talked about postage, but that's very different, because delivery and postage is kind of the same thing. Yeah, so this is different from transportation of goods, and this is different from postage. So this is more of, if your cake person has to deliver your cake, even if it's in the same vicinity, they're going to charge you. Your florist and your bouquets, if they need to deliver your bouquets, they're going to charge you. As I said, with your decor, if they're delivering your decor goods, they're going to charge you. Your production company, so anybody that is delivering anything for your wedding is not going to do it for free unless they've stated it in their packages. So that's something you need to be aware of, delivery costs. The next one I'm going to talk about is insurance. Some people get insurance for their wedding, some people don't get insurance, but if you're planning to get insurance, that's an extra cost. But that's just a hidden cost, because you might not know before you get into the wedding planning, and obviously contact an insurer how much it's going to be. The next one is marriage license. I feel like this is a cost that people don't really think about. People think about the venue, the vendors, the dress and all of that. They don't realize that the license to get married, or like your civil ceremony, all that's part of actually the legality of getting married, you pay for. So that's a price that you have to factor in, because it could be in the hundreds of pounds or hundreds of dollars. So make sure you factor in that marriage license. It's so important. And we're coming to the end, guys. So the last two hidden costs I have is to do with your vendors. The first one is vendor meals. If you haven't provided meals for your vendors and they are not providing their meals, it's something you need to think about, especially if you have a plated service. Because if you have so many vendors and you have a plated service, and maybe your plated service is £100 per person, that can get quite pricey. So you need to make sure that you factor in vendor meals. What people have done, especially if they have a plated service, is they've just got the venue to create a different, smaller food for the vendor. So maybe like chicken and chips or something, not the obviously 5-course meal that the guests are having. If it's a buffet, more often than not, your caterer will just throw in food for your vendors. That's fine. Very important for you to check that, especially if you're having a plated option. And the best for last, and that is parking for your guests. That is a headache for me because different places charge different for parkings, and almost every time the parking just gets messed up. Either someone doesn't put a ticket right, or the price is not what it says. Parking, I've seen, has been a pain. So make sure you leave sufficient amount for parking, because even if someone says it's £20 to park, or it's £16 to park, or it's a discount to park, something might mess up, and someone who's parked somewhere expensive for a whole day can rack up a bill, especially if they didn't park in the right place, or if they, if they didn't look at the sign, or they parked in a handicap. So you have to make sure that you put aside money for parking and find out how much parking is going to cost. So yeah, so you guys, that's the hidden costs that I have for you guys, and I hope this allows you to start thinking about how to, you know, mitigate this cost, how to prepare yourself. And also I hope it allows you to really think about asking the right questions. So if you get any quotes from any of your vendors, ask for transport, ask for tax. Is it included? Is VAT included? Is transport included? Is setup antenna? Basically, when you're asking your vendors for a quote, tell them to include everything. Say, I want everything. I want to have a full picture down to transport, accommodation, and mileage. Like, I want everything. Because with weddings, costs tend to creep in, and that's why I said leave a buffer. But if you're able to mitigate some of this cost using this video, I think it would really help you. So thank you guys so much for coming by my YouTube channel. My name is Wura Manola. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. I just wanted to say that my checklist is available now. It's on, the link is going to be down below. So if you want a checklist that can take you from A to Z during your wedding planning, make sure you check it out. All right guys, bye.